right. Welcome to the podcast. I am Matt Minich here for Bengals Chalk Talk. We're to do things a little bit differently this week because it is a different week. It is the bye week. There's no opponent to look forward to. We would look back at last week's game, but big news with the benching of longtime starting quarterback Andy Dalton. We have got to talk quarterbacks. So we're going to spend the whole time today talking about quarterbacks in this draft and the guys that I believe are worthy of consideration for the potential number one overall pick. Once again, I am Matt Minich. This is Bengals Chalk Talk here on Orange and Black Insider. Thank you for being with me today. It's a sad day, but it's an exciting day. Obviously, Dalton's been the quarterback for a long time, and yeah, he's a great guy, and the team has had some success with him. But I think it's pretty clear that a lot of things need to change in Cincinnati, and not every problem the Bengals have had, are having, comes down to AD. But it's time to move on. So exciting to get a look at Ryan Finley. We'll talk about that a little bit more next week. Today, we are going to focus on the NFL draft and the three quarterbacks in particular that I think should be under consideration for that top pick. So we will start in Alabama with Tua Tagovailoa. Obviously, Tank for Tua has been the slogan. So Tua is a guy that people have, considered for that overall spot for quite a while now. So let's take a look at what he brings to the table and why. So the first play I'm going to talk about came against Ole Miss. It was a 1st and 15 play. They had a penalty. They were backed up on the 33-yard line going in. They had two receivers and a tight end to the left, and one receiver split out to the right. They've got they're in the shotgun with one running back to the right, and they actually motion that second receiver, or one of the receivers, from the left-hand side, send him on a high motion into the backfield. So on this play, we're going to get a play-action pass. So Tua executes the play action, and then he looks downfield. All right, executes the play action, actually kind of peeks over to the swing first, then looks downfield, throws a great ball to the post. All right, excellent ball to the post for the touchdown. He's poised. He's in the pocket. Everything about his technique looks fine. Not really any kind of pressure until late here. Somebody starts to peek through, but that's not affecting him at all. Excellent throw from a clean pocket for Tua. All right, so the next play we'll look at came against Tennessee. It was 1st and 10. They were on their own 39-yard line, and this was an unbalanced formation with two receivers and an ineligible tight end to the right, and there was actually a wing back over to the left. So he actually kind of motions over there from the unbalanced side, and they're in the pistol. So Tua takes his back, turns his back to the defense on the play action pass, and then flips his hips back around. So, now his eyes are completely off the defense. That's one thing about the play action pass. Eyes are off the defense. He's got to find things fast. He comes back and throws this ball way downfield. This is, they're on the 39. That's completed around the 16, 17. So we're talking about like 45 yards downfield. And now it definitely kind of dies. It definitely kind of hangs up there a little bit. So that's probably about the end of his range. But a good ball downfield. Again, he has a clean pocket. He's not rushed or anything. Executes with good technique. But you see that he can think quick. That he's getting his eyes around quickly. and throwing that ball downfield. All right, so the next play we will look at came against South Carolina. It was 2nd and 10. They were on the 24-yard line going in, and they had an H-back and 2 receivers to the left, 1 receiver to the right, and the running back in shotgun to the left to that heavy side. So this is another play action pass. This one ends up being kind of a half rollout, like he starts to boot it around, and then he looks back. So play action to the running back, start to boot around, then he sets up and looks back to the running back in the other side. After the play action pass, the running back has run a wheel. So Tua is now coming across his body. All right, that's a difficult throw. He completes that thing right around the 6-yard line. So very good throw. Coming back, like I said, pretty difficult. He's not really completely set up, which is makes it more of a upper body arm throw a little bit. But just because of the nature of the play, he's not able to really get set up. He didn't exactly hit him in stride, but it's pretty good. And there's a guy coming over the top there, so you definitely wouldn't want to see him hanging it up too much. So overall, good ball, good placement, and gets that thing down there to the receiver and into the end zone. All right. Also in that Ole Miss game, they had a 1st and 10 on the 27-yard line going in. They're in a shotgun formation with a bunch to the right, the back to the left, and a single receiver split out to the left. And Tua's going to look to the single receiver side. There on the sideline. That receiver is going to run a vertical route. And, they've got him in pretty good position. The corner's in real good position, kind of hugging along the sideline. And Tua throws a great ball in a real tight window there. So, good ball, tight window throw. He threw it up high where the receiver could go up and make a play on it. And the receiver is able to get it in there and get the touchdown. So once again, really good placement, tough throw, tight window there on the sideline. And that's a tight window throw, not just because of the coverage, but because of where the receiver's at on the field, that there is that to use a cliche, extra defender there. So really perfect placement. He can't put that ball anywhere else if he's hoping to get a completion and a touchdown on it. All right, so against Southern Miss, again, they were going in, found themselves on the 17-yard line, and they came out in an unbalanced trips look. So it's trips, and they've got a tight end over, so a 3-man surface on that side with the running back in a pistol look. And the number 3 receiver ran a wheel route. So they've got a stop route, a now route, and Tua's gonna kind of bubble. The stop route, the bubble, whatever you want to call it. He's gonna kind of pump with that, and then he goes to that number 3 on the wheel. And really a good job here of just using the space he has. So now hang it up there. There's nobody else outside. Let the guy run to it, catch it in stride, and get in there for the touchdown. So again, excellent play by Tua. Now he's got to show a little bit of touch, pop it over, not like a high arcing, crazy kind of running under, but, puts it where he's leading the receiver. It's a real easy pitch and catch for them. Excellent throw by Tua for the touchdown. All right, so Tua runs quite a bit of RPOs in the offense that he's in, and this is one example against Southern Miss again. So he's got an H-back and a receiver to his left and stacked receivers to his right with the running back. He's in the shotgun with the running back also to his right. So we get the RPO action. He makes a good read. They're all biting up on it. And then he makes a great tight window throw between 2 defenders for the touchdown. So, good read initially. Good job getting the ball, lacing it in there between 2 defenders. Now, definitely comes in a little bit lower than you want to see. So, good placement, between the defenders. Not great placement because it is low. Fortunately, with where it's at on the field, it doesn't really matter much. He falls into the end zone. But if that's in the middle of the field, you're taking away his ability to rack it up, to run after the catch with that ball, if it's coming in low like that. So good, not great placement there, after what was definitely a good read. All right. So then against South Carolina, they had 1st and 10 on the 11-yard line going in, in the red zone here. They've got a tight end and 2 receivers to the left, 1 receiver to the right, and the back to the left-hand side with a quarterback in shotgun. And they take the number 1 receiver and they actually motion him. They do that high fly motion into the backfield. But what they're going to run here is a star concept. And if you're not familiar, so a star concept it's a common look out of bunch looks. And basically one guy's going in, one guy's going out, one guy's going up. And it's some variation of a hitch or an out or something along those lines. But they're trying to kind of use the horizontal space there coming out of the bunch. So this isn't truly a bunch, but you still got 3 receivers pretty tight, even after that receiver gets out of there. And that's the back, the tight end, and that remaining receiver. So they're still pretty tight. So the bunch pass concepts can work from a look like this. So the back goes out, and he's pretty tightly covered. The tight end goes in, and he's pretty tightly covered. So that leaves the receiver who is running the hitch route. So there's a defender right there. Tua recognizes that, and he sees the receiver's leverage. Okay, so the defender's to the outside. The receiver has an advantage to the inside. Tua throws the ball, putting it away from the defender. He puts it to the inside. So number 1, this protects the ball, protects the interception, but also it allows that receiver to turn upfield, to rack it up for a touchdown. So ball is thrown. Ball is completed at about the 4-yard line, and because of where that ball is placed, he's able to run it in for a touchdown. All right, so we saw an RPO earlier, and that's what we're going to see here against Ole Miss. On the 26-yard line, it was 2nd and 10. They've got a tight end to the right, 2 receivers, and an H-back to the left, and the back is in the pistol. So we get the play action, all right? We get the play action, we get the run action, and then he throws a great ball. Again, good read. The linebacker steps up, opening it up. All right, good placement away from that remaining defender to the inside. Defender misses the tackle, and this turns into a big play. Again, you put the ball in position to let him rack it, and then it ends up turning into a big play because of a missed tackle by the defense. All right, so also in that Southern Miss game, they came in to 3rd and 3 on the 34-yard line. They had trips to the left and 1 receiver to the right, with the back in the shotgun to his right. So here, they've got a good offensive line. Tua doesn't face a lot of pressure. Here he starts to get a little pressure, and he gets out of the pocket. Now, how much pressure did he really get? I mean, that's kind of debatable. Could he have stood in there? That's definitely something to consider with him. But he gets out, keeps his eyes downfield, and he's able to deliver a great pass. Really throws a bullet there, to pick up that first down on 3rd and 3. So very good play there by Tua, getting it downfield. So overall, Tua is an excellent player. Maybe the safest of the top quarterbacks. Definitely has a lot of positive things going on for him. He is not super dynamic. He's not Patrick Mahomes, but he can create. Does have the ability to get us to the pocket, move around a little bit. To do things on the run, as you see right there. So he's got good arm strength. You definitely see some deeper balls will loft a little bit, but overall, good arm strength, definitely good enough arm strength. He has excellent accuracy, and generally his placement is right on as well. Can make a lot of tight window throws. That's one of the criticisms of him is all the talent around him. And for as good as these receivers are, he's definitely still making some tight window throws. So he's got that going for him. There's less of that to evaluate than there might be with other players. But you can still look at it and see that he's doing it. He runs a lot of RPOs, makes good reads on those, which obviously that's a big part of modern football. So good to know that he's got that in him. You see when he throws interceptions, he has 2 interceptions on the year. One of them came on a scramble where he, definitely made a bad decision on that scramble. So a little bit of a concern there. The other was in cover 2, where the backside safety, really bit hard and made a play on it. One thing that's of concern to me about that is that both of those plays, and this is the scramble here, both of those plays came in the red zone. So both times those are picks that are taking points off the board. So maybe just, I don't know, maybe he's too aggressive at that point of the field or something. But that's just something that, to be aware of, that he needs to be smart about that stuff. And of course, he's coming off of an ankle injury too. Now, I'm not a doctor. I never professed to be a doctor. The things that I have seen about the type of surgery he got and the results of it look very promising. But I'm in no way qualified to make those type of decisions. So definitely, with the Bengals' history with drafting injured players, drafting a player who had an injury from Alabama recently, I could see why people would be afraid of that. But I don't know if that's rational or not. But it's something certainly to look at and to consider. But hopefully he comes back and we get some answers and see some really good performances out of him throughout the rest of the season. All right. So the other big name before the season started was Justin Herbert. And he is a guy who they throw the word arm talent around, and man, do I hate that word. And I tend to not like the prospect when those words are used. But definitely a guy that has a lot of tools. Excellent build for the position. Really high-end potential guy. Not as catchy of a phrase as Tank for Tua, but somebody that's up there for a lot of people on charts and certainly has a lot of potential. And I liked him a little bit more than I thought I might as I dove into his film over the course of the season. So we'll look at a couple of specific plays. First came against Cal. They had 2nd and 2 on the 19-yard line going in. 2nd and 6 on the 19-yard line going in. They were in a wide bunch to the left, so the receivers were bunched up, but not tied to the line of scrimmage, with a tight end to the right, and the back was also on the left with their quarterback in the shotgun. We're going to see a lot of quarterback in the shotgun as we go through all these quarterbacks. But now, this is a bubble, which people don't, what's so great about a bubble, right? It's a pass. It's a short pass. It's behind the line of scrimmage. What's so great about it? Well, this is a bubble to the field, which means a lot more in the NCAA where the hash marks are wider. And it does definitely show off his arm strength. So that's a pretty long throw. He's throwing it on a rope, zipping it in there. Good accuracy on it. Also interesting here, he pump fakes to that bubble. And I don't know what the situation is, if he is afraid of this unblocked edge rusher that's coming in, jumping up and knocking it down, because when he pump fakes, that guy takes off and backs away, and then that opens up the passing lane for him. So that's just conjecture on my part that might have been what he's doing. But if so, pretty pretty smart little play. Andy Dalton's had a lot of passes knocked down, so it's nice to see guys that are thinking about that sort of thing. All right, so the next play we'll talk about also came against Cal, and it was a 3rd and 8 on the 27-yard line going in. They had 2 receivers and an H-back to the left, a single receiver to the right, and the back to the right in the shotgun. So Herbert shows great touch on this. So the receiver to the right runs a fade into the end zone, and he does an excellent job of giving himself room. He takes the inside release and then gets back to the outside. And Herbert, really floats the ball underneath him. Great touch on this ball. Throws it basically right at the pylon. So because the receivers run a good route, he's given himself lots of space. And he is not, then past and outside of the defensive back. So he's the only one that can really make a play on this ball. So excellent ball, excellent placement and touch by Herbert, putting that thing on the pylon. The ball is dropped by the receiver, which is a problem that Oregon has. But good ball. Now, looking specifically at Herbert and what he's doing, this pass is all upper body. He's got some pressure coming at him, and he kind of leans back and away from the throw. He's not even close to stepping into this thing. He's leaning back. He's fearing the rush a little bit there. Very much showing off the arm talent. But it is a little bit concerning, that he's not standing in there and delivering in the face of pressure and using good technique. All right, so against Colorado, they had a 2nd and 1. Now, at this point, there was less than a minute left in the half, so it's not our normal 2nd and 1. They are a bit more, rushed and definitely looking to throw the ball. It's not just taking a shot to take a shot, but he throws a seam route. They've got trips receivers to the right, a single receiver to the left, and a back in the backfield next to him in the shotgun on his left. So he's got a clean pocket, and really, in nice little tempo, he steps back, delivers a nice pass to that number 2 receiver on the seam, and really hits him right in stride. It's a 37-yard pass. Moving the chains, getting him a little bit closer down there, and definitely a good ball on his part, throwing it in front of that receiver. All right, so earlier in that same drive, they ran the exact same play, but it was flipped. So they had a single receiver to the right. They were on the right hash, so they ran the trips to the left to the field. And the back was offset to the right to that single receiver side. And it's the exact same play, and he's going to the exact same guy. And what's concerning is here he's not open. This seems like it's him really locking in on a player and where he initially thinks he's going to go, wants to go with the football, and then trying to force it in there. But this receiver is bracketed. He's got a receiver underneath him. He's got a defender underneath him and one, over the top to the inside. And then, the ball comes underneath him too. So the ball comes a little bit behind him. The defensive back is being disciplined and keeping his eyes to the receiver because he does have a step on him. But if he turns around, he can make a play on this ball. And he does hit the ball. It goes up. The other defensive back, kind of reacts, but isn't able to get to it. But really, Herbert's lucky that thing wasn't picked off. That was a dangerous pass, not a good situation at all there. So it really looks like he was zeroed in on one player on that play. He was staring it down. That's why that extra, that other defender was coming in and really had that thing bracketed by the time it got there. And then the ball was behind him, despite the fact that Herbert had a decent footwork and a clean pocket there. Not a good look on that play for Herbert. All right, so in the second half of that Colorado game, they had driven down the field found themselves in a 3rd and 9 situation on the 13-yard line. And they motion out and they get into a trip look to the right with a single receiver to the left and back, in the shotgun with the back to the left. So it is a good read here. Herbert sees the safety who extends wide over really the number 2 receiver, and the Buffs are showing blitz and have a lot of guys lined up on the line of scrimmage, and some of them pop out like teams like to do. But really, there's nobody over that number 3 receiver except that safety who's lined up way back in the goal line. And as soon as he starts getting wide, great read by Herbert, he's open. And whoever is on the line of scrimmage showing blitz is going to have to hustle to get back there, but they don't have time. So Herbert sees that, boom, sets up, zips it in there before the defender can get in there to make a play. So excellent job there. And also, he is dealing with the pressure here because they do have an unblocked defender coming. They do bring an extra guy off the edge, and Herbert stands in there. His technique is unaffected, and he delivers it knowing that he's going to have that free defender coming. He's going to take a hit there. So definitely a really good rep for Herbert there. A couple of big things there. That's a 3rd down, and that's in the red zone, which are 2 areas where the Bengals have really struggled, and obviously 2 key situations that you need to win football games. So huge for Herbert to be able to step up, make a play make a good read, and take the hit and make a play in a situation like that. So earlier in that same game, back in the first quarter, they were in 1st and 10 on the 33-yard line going in. They came out with trips to the right and a single receiver split out to the left with the back actually to the right as well with the trips receivers. So they come out and there's a pump fake to the stop route, and then he throws it to the receiver across the middle on that kind of bender, not quite a slant. We'll call it a bender, where he's working inside and into the middle of the field. Now, very good placement here. So this is between 2 defenders. Now, the receiver has to slow down a little bit and he kind of comes back to it. But I actually like that because if he puts it really in front of him, he's leading that receiver right into the safety. And that safety is going to be free to, really tee off on him and deliver a hit and try and disconnect him from the football. Throwing it a little bit shallow of that, the receiver is still able to make the catch, and it slows him down enough that it throws off the angle of that safety and allows the receiver to rack the ball. So it's not even that safety that makes the play on this play. It's another defender who comes in and makes the tackle. So, definitely good placement, allows this receiver to be able to rack that ball and move it up and gain additional yardage. All right, so in that same game against Colorado, also in the first quarter, they had a tight end and a receiver to the left, 2 receivers split out to the right, back is offset to the left, and they do a quick slant to number 2 on the right, to that number 2 receiver. Now, there's a real quick pass. He gets it off fast. He's getting a little bit of pressure, and he doesn't really step into it, right? It's all upper body, and it's off target. So comes in low. The receiver's able to make the catch, not able to rack it at all, not able to turn it into additional yardage. So definitely, got to think about that. You put that ball in front of him a little bit, give him the opportunity to be able to run with it a little bit, and just have it up high where he can make a play and stay on his feet and keep on running. So against Auburn, Herbert showed that he has some ability to create. He's a pretty good athlete. He can move around a little bit, and he's a big guy too. He's hard to tackle. He's hard to bring down. But they were in 2nd and 7 on the 20-yard line going in. So in the red zone, and they got pressure. So right away, he pump fakes, and he's getting pressure from the right-hand side, tries to scramble out to the left, away from the quads, and then there's a good contain rusher on that side. So he realizes he's not going to be able to go anywhere with it. He turns and sets up and delivers a ball all the way across the field for a touchdown. Great ball. Not able to step into it because he is getting hit here. Not quite leaning back like he was on the previous play we talked about a little while ago, but not stepping into it either. So all arm across the formation, across his body. Ball's released in the 32-yard line, and he throws it across the field and halfway into the end zone. So you definitely showing off that he can make some plays when things break down, and that he has a big time arm as well. But that's not always the way things go for him. When he tries to create, things can get a little rough as well. And against Stanford, he was getting pressure from the middle, shook off the tackle because he's a big, strong dude, scrambled out to the right, and then he delivered a ball down the field that was incomplete, but really he was lucky it wasn't picked. It wasn't an advisable throw. The receiver really became the defender in that situation. It was really more headed towards the defender. So could have been an interception. Lucky it wasn't an interception on that play. Overall, Herbert has got a lot of potential, and I like him more than I like a lot of guys who have been labeled with, given that arm talent label. He can do some things pretty well. Huge arm, very inconsistent with his accuracy, though. The feet can get a little funky. He can throw kind of off platform, which he doesn't do very well. And that can get him into some sticky situations as far as that's concerned. He has dealt with some poor receiver play, and not always the best protection. Sometimes can be a little bit chaotic. Watching their offense just looked like chaos against Auburn, despite the way that they played in that game, the points they were able to score. Things looked a little bit helter-skelter at times. Concerning that it seems like year in and year out, he hasn't necessarily improved in the areas where you'd like to see him. And I've watched, really only casually watched his film prior to his senior year, and only really dug into the senior film. But you do notice the same issues coming up again and again. So I think he's an interesting prospect. I think at this point that top 5 pick is likely. I could see him in contention for the top pick. But definitely a lot of question marks, a lot of things you want to work out, and some things you're going to want to be more comfortable with before you're drafting Justin Herbert and making him the future of your franchise. But big arm, big dude, has some athletic ability, can definitely, definitely has the potential to be really a star in this league. All right, so those were the 2 big names coming into the year, the guys who were considered potential first overall quarterbacks, and in the tanking conversation, even though obviously people love alliteration, Herbert was a guy who was kind of talked about in the same ilk. And suddenly a new contender has emerged, and it is Ohio native Joe Burrow. Ohio State transfer, second year at LSU now. He's got a new offensive coordinator, and all of a sudden he is going off and has quickly moved up boards and become a legitimate prospect candidate for that number 1 overall selection. So let's take a look at him. And first thing we'll look at is against Texas. There's a 3rd and goal on the 6-yard line against Texas. They came out with trips to the left and one receiver to the right, although that receiver was lined up tight. So this is an excellent tight window pass for Burrow. Number 3 receiver splits the safeties, and he zips it in there right in between them. So it's a clean pocket. He's got the time he needs. Delivers a great pass in between those 2 receivers. I mean, there's 2 linebackers right there underneath too. There's all kinds of people around. So zips that thing in there, and delivers an excellent pass for the touchdown. All right. So also in that game, they're in the middle of the field on the 42-yard line, and middle of the field. Not in the red zone. They're actually on the right hash. Same formation with trips to the left and that receiver lined up tight to the right. And it's going to be a 1st and 10 play and a deep out by that singular receiver. So on this play, the receivers, covered. There's a man right there running with him, but he's to his inside. And Burrow does a great job, excellent placement right on the sideline where the receiver and only the receiver can make the catch. So no risk of it getting picked there, but not too far out, right there in that sweet spot on the sideline where the receiver can make that catch. It's a pitch and catch, good situation in the pocket, and Burrow is able to deliver and get that first down. All right, so this is kind of a similar situation, where it's about placement and understanding the field using the sideline. And it came against Vanderbilt. They had 2nd and 8 on the 16-yard line going in. So a goal line play here, 2 wide receivers and an H-back to the left, along with the running back offset to the left in the shotgun, and 1 receiver to the right. Again, Burrow is going to go to that single receiver side, take advantage of that matchup. Now, he shows great touch on this ball. So they're going to throw a fade ball up to that number 1 receiver. He looks it off to the other side first, and then, again, delivers just a great pass. Really gives that receiver the ability to run underneath it, puts it in front of him to the sideline, puts it away from the defender. The defender can't get at the ball there, but lofts it up there and lets the receiver run underneath it. So an excellent job there by Burrow on that pass. All right, so another example of great touch on a vertical route came against Texas. It was a 3rd and 5 situation. So a 3rd down situation in a tight game, the 3rd quarter of a tight game too. And they had trips to the left and 1 wide receiver to the right with the back to the right offset and Burrow in the shotgun. So excellent touch on the fade. Now this time it's not about letting the receiver run under it. It's about the bracket. They've got the receiver got past the corner, but the safety's overlapping. So Burrow doesn't want to put this too far in front and get it into potentially interception territory there. So he puts it right in that side pocket, right underneath the safety, but over the top of the corner, finding that tight little window there. So excellent job there. Now, footwork wise, he doesn't step into this pass. So he doesn't step into this one. He is getting pressure from the front side and ends up getting hit from his blind side. Stands in there and delivers on it, but not great footwork, not stepping into the throw on that. Now he can hit a vertical in stride as well, and this is an empty look against Florida. They have trips to the left and twin receivers offset to the right. So he hits the vertical by the number 1 on the twin side to his right. Really hits it in stride. Empty here. The pocket is holding up pretty well though, and he's able to deliver that. Now the ball doesn't go that too far. It's only really traveling. He's catching the ball about 22 yards downfield. But because Burrow puts it in front of him and leads him, puts him in a good spot, he is able to turn that into a score for LSU. All right, so against Vanderbilt, they were on the 25-yard line going in. They had 1st and 10, and they came out with 2 receivers and an H-back to the right, single receiver spread out to the left, and the back in the backfield offset to the single receiver side. Again, going to work the single receiver side of the formation. And he throws, an excellent back shoulder fade. The receiver, adjusts, flips around, throwing it right at the pylon. And the idea here to catch the defensive back in front of you and be able to do that. So, excellent throw for that back shoulder fade. My question is that really what he wanted to do? Because we see sometimes his arm, just kind of gives out on him a little bit. He doesn't have quite as much juice as he wants. And in this situation, the defensive back, the receiver's in front of him. The defensive back's running underneath. So does he really want to put that ball there, or does he want it to go over the top? Will be the question. What were you actually trying to do there? Looks good for what it was, but what were you trying to do? And he does step into this ball, so it's good technique and everything. But what's he trying to do with that play? And as we look at another play from Texas with 2 receivers and an H-back to the left, 1 receiver split out to the right, and the tailback offset to the left. They ran a play action pass. And once again, he's going to that single receiver side. Now, this is in the middle of the field, and that thing dies on him. So this is an example, but we see a good amount of this. I've seen it on a seam one, before too, but especially on these verticals to the outside, where that ball can die on him sometimes. He's got that defender beat. He's in front of him. But this ball, the receiver does, that is, but this ball is thrown behind. The receiver has to come back and make a leaping, contested catch over the defensive back's shoulders. Excellent play by the receiver. The ball is around 35 yards downfield. And, is that Burrow's range? Is that what Burrow's going to be? And it's a bit of a question mark. How strong is that arm? That could be a potential limitation and thing to watch out for with Joe Burrow. All right. One thing, if you follow me and you listen to me talk about quarterbacks, I love quarterbacks that can create. That's we see these quarterbacks that can really do some special things athletically nowadays. But that goes back to Bill Walsh. And that was something Bill Walsh would always talk about when he was looking at a quarterback too. And man, Burrow is that dude. Burrow can definitely get that sort of thing done. So as we look at Burrow, here's a play against Texas. Against Texas is 3rd and 17. 3rd and 17. So the odds are not in the offense's favor in 3rd and 17. And Texas is bringing a 6-man pressure. The pocket quickly folds in on Burrow, but he steps up right into the pocket, finds a little bit of a space that he can work in, actually hops up in the air to throw this ball, and throws it like 2 first down depth. It's not like he's just throwing a little crosser or a check down or something. He throws it, past the 17 there, past that 17-yard mark. So excellent play, creates, hops up, uses his arm, able to get the ball to that receiver. And really a clutch play, and it ends up being a touchdown as that receiver turns it into one. So incredible play. He is clutch. He can create. Another example comes against Utah. In Utah, they were in 3rd and 3 down on the goal line. They had a bunch to the left, a single receiver to the right, and a tailback offset to the right as well. And I talked about the star concept earlier, and that's what they're trying to do with that bunch. But Burrow gets pressured, and he is forced out of the pocket, and he has to roll away from the bunch, away from that star concept. So, kudos to his receivers. They all adjust as well, start, looking to get into his vision. And one of those receivers from that bunch side, not his job, not his initial job, executes his scramble rules, comes back across the formation. Burrow turns and throws across his body opposite the way that he is scrambling, the way he is rolling, and throws a great touchdown on that play. And we've seen some similar plays out of Burrow in different games. So definitely not a one-time thing. Again, just like before, it was a clutch situation. It was 3rd and 17. Nobody expects you to win in 3rd and 17. He's getting blitzed. Pockets collapse on him. He steps up and makes a big time play. This is 3rd and 3 on the goal line. So you got to score. You got to get that touchdown. You don't want to be going for a field goal. So the pressure's on there too. Again, 3rd downs, goal lines, places where the Bengals have issues and could use a playmaker who can step up in those situations. And Joe Burrow is getting it done. He is that dude. So that's what I really like about this guy, is the way that he can create when things aren't going great. Because as we all know, things do not always go so great in Cincinnati. Now, this is a play probably just about everybody's seen, because it made all the highlight reels. It was all over Bengals Twitter when this happened against Mississippi State. But it is a great play and an awesome example of the type of playmaker that Joe Burrow is, what he can do when he's scrambling, and how he continues to look downfield when he's getting pressured. So trips to the right, a single receiver to the left, and they actually motion the back out to the right-hand side. The pocket collapses. All right, the pocket caves in on Burrow. He steps up. So he's got an out. He's got a lane. And I'll tell you what, this is 1st and 10. He steps up into the pocket, and he can run here. He's got room. He's got that 1st down if he wants to take it with his feet, but he keeps his eyes downfield, and it pays off big. He's got that number 2 receiver running the post, and he finds him for a touchdown. Huge play, big time play, and this is exactly the type of thing you want to see out of your franchise quarterback, a guy that can step up and do those exciting things. So, what is Burrow? He's a guy who can create. He makes plays. He's exciting, dynamic. Use any kind of adjective you want. He keeps his eyes downfield when he's moving around in the pocket, when he's getting pressured, tries to make those big time plays. He's a gritty, tough player, can take some hits, doesn't seem to, be too concerned about his body and the hits he takes. Great placement on underneath passes. So can be a very efficient, move the ball down the field guy. Could be a really good fit for what we believe the Bengals want to be offensively, although we haven't really seen much of it. Now, his arm strength is good, but it could be his limiting factor, because it definitely seems like receivers are forced to come back to the ball sometimes. So that is a bit of a concern and a bit of a limiting factor. But he can, he's such an exciting player, and he can do some other things. The way he's making plays, that does he have enough to look past that? Whereas I think of the 3, I would say his arm strength is probably the lowest of the 3, and obviously there's a lot of film to watch, a lot of things to go back at, but kind of judging by what I've seen so far, that's where I see it, with Herbert being the strongest, Tua being number 2, and Burrow being 3rd in that group. But overall, so these are the guys that I think should be considered for the potential number 1 overall pick, wherever they end up picking, to be determined. But looking at those guys so far, I think that you can see Burrow really stands out. So he's my top guy because of what an exciting player he is, and the way that he can create. Those are the things that I love about him that really stand out. I think he has big time potential to be that guy, to be that that leader on the field too, because of his style of play, the way he plays, and the way he steps up. He can create the plays that this offense needs him to create. So that's definitely an exciting possibility as we move forward and look at this draft class. Tua, I would rank second. I think Tua might be the safest pick of the group. I think he's going to be a good pro. And I find it hard to believe that he's not going to be a good pro. I think there are some question marks with Burrow's arm strength. And there's question marks with Herbert, which we'll get into. But I think Tua is the safe pick. He does everything pretty well. Like everything is at a good level. So I like the way that Tua plays, and I think he's going to be a successful quarterback in the NFL. And then Herbert would be the third. And I don't know if I take Herbert at the top of the draft. His inconsistency really scares me. He's definitely going to be a first-round pick, probably a top 10 pick. I just don't know if he's in contention, if I would put him in contention for that top overall slot. So those are my guys. That's my order. It's not unlikely that it'll change. I'm not going to write it in stone and ignore what happens over the next few months because there's lots of game tape to eat up before we get into the draft. But, Burrow, could really be a guy for this franchise. I definitely see some great things out of Tua as well. And Herbert's got some positives, but a long way to go and probably the riskiest pick. So thank you for watching, for joining me. If you are listening to the audio version of the podcast, make sure you check out the YouTube video. And if you're watching this video on YouTube, check out the audio download, and you will have my interview with Joe Marino of the Draft Network. In addition to this content, my interview with Joe Marino, he'll talk about who he thinks is the best fit for the Bengals, who he thinks is the number one quarterback overall, not the same guy. Spoiler alert there. And we talk a little bit, we'll talk mostly on these three being the top candidates, but we'll touch a little bit on the field. Eason, Hurd, and the rest of the guys considered in that area, of course, with Love being in there as well. So we'll touch base on the other four quarterbacks as a part of that interview and give you what exactly Marino's take is on that. So from Tua, Herbert, and Burrow to Eason, Fromm, Love, and Hurd, we'll hear about all those guys. So thanks again for joining me. Crazy week, sad week, but also exciting week. And, it's time to start looking forward. The Bengals have made that decision, and we definitely need to start looking forward and hoping to build something great. Thank you for joining me.